Thank you very much.
I'm happy
And
to have you. I know you weren't scheduled to be on, but
yes,
I cut the calls and we're just gonna, yeah, so I'll give you the last 15 minutes, ma'am.
yes.
Go
I
right
just
ahead.
want to say 2 words. I know Mr. Rowley. I would have met the Prime Minister. And I
Yes.
just want to say I find it extremely strange because I've had to deal with Interpol issues. The government of Trinidad said they'd had nothing to do with it. They did not say that they were not informed about it. Because if somebody else had reason to put his name on a list, the country, if it is participating in protocols with Interpol, would know that. And certainly, he should have been treated differently. So I find it very strange, but I will say no more because we don't really have the time. I
Yeah.
find it highly offensive. And one day I will share with you how we had to deal with a situation of a visitor who was coming to Barbados, who was on a list, a very high profile South African, and what transpired and it was done with the utmost decency and everything.
That's in your thing.
In my case,
I want to continue this conversation, Miss McClean, because
okay, we can do that.
I can see this government doing that.
Let me tell you what happened. We were having this was during one of our international our and biennial, sorry, diaspora conferences.
Yes.
And a prominent South African, I wouldn't say no more because it would identify the connections and so on, was coming as part of a group of Africans um, to Barbados. And I got an urgent call from the chief immigration officer and the person who was hosting them, who had invited them to Barbados, a Barbadian who was living between Nigeria and South Africa. And I got a call to say that they discovered that this gentleman was on an Interpol list. Now, if he were landed in Barbados, once you come in and you clear immigration, you're essentially landed. Because we have an agreement, he would have to have been arrested. And the chief immigration officer at the time felt that it was strange because this person had to transit the UK, which is also has an agreement with Interpol. So the question was, why are you allowing him to exit, to fly through London, come to Barbados and want us in Barbados to arrest this very prominent person? Okay? And so I was advised, so the question was, what do we do? I said, what are the options? I was told we can refuse to land him, to give him and explain. The gentleman was put on the phone. He explained to me that was not, and that was not supposed to be active, etc. I said and I explained to him that we were party to this Interpol agreement and what the rules were. And the only option I had was for him to turn around, get back on that plane, and return to South Africa. Interestingly enough, he agreed. I mean, I felt so bad about it because this was part of a celebration and so on. But he was very accommodating. I said, but you need to ensure that this thing is sorted out. Would you believe the gentleman contacted me having passed through London and nothing happened? Because they did not arrest him there. I think they were trying to create an international scandal. Okay? He was not arrested and he got back home. But imagine how tiring it is to fly from South Africa to London to Barbados and have to turn around and do it. The point I'm making about that story was that we were informed, as we were required to be informed as participants. So it means, and understand that nowadays you would realize that there are these pre-clearance lists. Before you travel, people know that you are on that flight and so on. And so it is interesting. I mean, and this is Gary Cohn, right?
Gary Cohn,
former prime minister who left office in April, be into July. So this happened the other day, early April, May, June. not even 3 months properly, I don't believe that Prime Minister Rowley has left office. If it's 3 months, 4 months, not a long time.
I think it's April. I
You
think
know,
it's
he left in
April.
April. So I was trying to. So
I think Dave can verify for me because of the.
you know,
I
he
saw
left in April. The
it.
thing said April, but I'm just saying because we are, you know, we have one more week, so to speak, in July. But I read the story and I smile. I say, you know, sometimes we are told things, but the answer is not in what you're told, but what you're not told. Because as far as I'm concerned, my question, I guess if you understand the system, you would ask question. My question would be, you are not party to him getting him on or have him being placed on the list. But were you aware as a country, as a jurisdiction which has a relationship with Interpol, that his name was on the list? Because I will say this, you know, if that is the case, he's a former prime minister. Do you inform him that this is the, I mean, and even if they, to me, even, well, I don't know how things played out in Antigua, but I also believe that there's a level of respect due to anybody, but certainly to a former, it is just, I use an expression, it's passing strange. It's not.
Yeah, because as you're saying, they're going to Interpol is going to call the country.
Yes,
so
so
it's interesting that but you know,
red flags come up, you see, because there are systems that explain how how these flags would come up. You know?
But I mean, you're a woman of grace, and that is the kind of administration you're part of. And I just want to address something here. And that's one of the things I want to say to Barbadians. Let me tell you something. It's today for you, and today for me, and tomorrow for you. Some of you on here, I see some of you are my friends, and you are saying that you don't business with Rowley because he was against he was pushing the jabs. Come on, people. So if you were sitting in Barbados and heard that they locked me up in Europe, what were you going to say? I didn't trouble anybody, Miss McClean. I was harassed on my trip.
No, I understand these things. I understand these things, Marcia, you know, and this is the unfortunate reality. People, tentacles reach far and wide. And games are played far and wide, and all kinds of
nasty games.
And I think that when those things, as you said today, for me, tomorrow for you, because you know it is unfortunate. We need to extend to people what we expect of them towards us. Do unto others, simple. Do unto others as you would have them do unto me. I sit in places and hear people. I almost said something which would have indicated, but I will speak to that at an appropriate time. But I sit in places and hear people make up things. And people walk away believing these things. You know, it is unfortunate. But anyhow, before I know that we don't have a lot of time, but I hope that helps people to understand what I consider to be some incongruities when it came to that story about former Prime Minister Rowley, you know. And interestingly enough, as a geologist, he was going off to Montserrat to engage in things geological, you know. But I also asked the Antiguan officials, I trust, because I don't know, I trust that they dealt with him with a level of dignity that they would extend to any citizen, any tourist, any visitor. But on that note, I will take you back. You were dealing, interestingly enough, earlier with our little friend and her dear father, and Amaya, as I was trying to remember the name. Yes. And as I listened to that, I thought of what I wanted to raise, because I came across, and I sent you 2 items earlier. One was a press statement. These were in the media. So press statement from the National Insurance, NISS, as it is now, confirming the introduction of paternity benefits effective June the 1st, 2025. You may recall in the budget of March this year, the Minister of Finance in the minister in the prime minister's office, he would have Minister Strawn, who delivered the budget, indicated that they were introducing an extension of maternity leave from 12 weeks to 14 weeks and 17 weeks if you had multiple births, and they were introducing paternity leave. Now, of course, the current legislation speaking to maternity leave is the Employment of Women Maternity Leave Act, Chapter 345A of the laws of Barbados. And then the other article was one in which there was a head of CEO of the National Insurance, Kim Chuda, was indicating, and I don't know if they've got them because I sent them to you after you had begun the program, soon after you'd done the program. But there was a note, an article in which Kim Chuda was saying that the provision was actually in place. And there was also in that story a first-time father, and it hurt my heart really when I read it, who had been following this matter and decided to apply for paternity leave for which he was entitled, and had proceeded on leave, but had to go back to work because he was told by some people that the leave provision was not yet in effect. Okay. Now, I went on Parliament's website because remember what I said, the legislation that is in place as of March when there was the budget, and which is still in place, is the Employment of Women Maternity Leave Act 340, Chapter 345A of the laws of Barbados. Now, what's the significance of that title? It doesn't speak to paternity leave. It doesn't speak to leave for men. And therefore, my expectation was that if the government, according to what was said in the budget,
yes,
that it was effective June the 1st, 2025, there should have been an amendment to legislation or the introduction of a new piece of legislation. I see no evidence of the first reading of any legislation relating to this item. And therefore, my understanding, if I am wrong, somebody can correct me. My understanding is that it will require a piece of legislation, and it cannot be enforced without that legislation. Now, I can tell you something. I hope that the minister didn't get it wrong, because there is a piece of legislation called the Collection of Taxes Act, Chapter 85 of the laws of Barbados. And I'll tell you what that does, or what that allows for. It allows for the provisional collection of taxes. You know, all my life as a youngster, I used to rush home as a teenager to listen to the budget. I wouldn't do that now. I could read it later or something. But you used to listen, and you would hear all the build up, the background information, the state of the economy, and so on. And then you would hear the provisions. And oftentimes you would hear something like effective midnight tonight, corporate taxes or some other taxes will either go up or down, or they will introduce one or remove one, right? And so that it goes into effect as of the date specified. But that can happen because there is legislation which allows you to do that, and that is the Collection of Taxes Act, as I mentioned, so that taxes to be effective from the date specified by the minister in the budgetary proposals can go into place, and then you come back and do what you call a validation. So you then go to Parliament and you do a validation which says, okay, because government might want to give, let's say, the citizens relief, or government may need to impose a tax to raise revenue urgently. So they will put it in place and then go and validate the necessary legislation. based on the laws that allow the government to do that.
Yes.
And so I am confused. Paternity leave is not a tax. And I am not aware of any other legal arrangement that would allow government to put something in place without the requisite legislation, either new or amended, as I said. And so I felt I needed to say that. When I read it, I was confused. And I said, I trust I'm not getting too old, or that I didn't understand the procedures, or I was missing something. So I thought I would raise it here for somebody to clarify. Ms. Tudor from National Insurance has spoken to it in the article. I don't recall in reading the article that any basis for verifying that applies. And I agree with Valerie, because I haven't said it yet, but I'll say it now when you say it. Vihoy, sorry, I'm giving her a name. I hope that's her name. That's a nice sounding name, Vihoy. I hope it's a she. And well, it's a she as far as I know. But anyhow, men should get their paternity leave. Yes, and this father should get his and get the money. He was off for 2 weeks. He went back early. The sad thing about the article is that he said the mother of his child was not working, and therefore he was the breadwinner in the family, and the inability to pay or to receive payment created a problem. What I would also say, coming out of this comment by the gentleman, that it is absolutely necessary that where payments are to be made for paternity and maternity leave, they should be done promptly, because sometimes people go back to work from leave and they haven't received the money. And if you are missing your salary, you need to have the payment. So I agree. So I really figure, Marcia, that we're supposed to be a rules-based society, a country ruled by the rule of law is so important. And my question to Minister Strawn and by they're the policymakers, and by extension to Ms. Tudor, I suppose they might have been given an instruction and said and told, because if you go to the article, in fact, if you go to the article, there's a section of the article towards the end, the second article with Ms. Tudor. Towards the end of that article, there's a statement which makes me wonder if the minister understands the rules. And I'll pull it up in a second, because I think it's important that we look at the bottom of the article. It says, when contacted, Tudor confirmed that the paternity benefit officially took effect on June the 1st. The paternity benefit is payable for 3 weeks, etc., etc. Responding directly to the father's case, Tudor said the young man is not out of time. He has 6 months, because you have 6 months to claim the leave, right? So he can still make a claim. That's not the issue. He wanted to be on leave at the time of the birth of the child. But it then goes on to say, Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, confirmed to Barbados today that Cabinet had approved the paternity leave policy and its accompanying reforms, including extended maternity leave and a new child grant. Here's what it goes on to say, and it's in quotation marks. What is being drafted are the regulations, it looks like, which are, this is not quite clear in my copy, which are currently with the Chief Parliamentary Council, he said. Strawn added that the Ministry of Labour, led by Minister Colin Jordan, is overseeing the process and liaising with the NIS on implementation. Well, I say to Minister Strawn and to his Minister of Labour colleague, Colin Jordan, get it right. Y'all don't seem to understand the rules. If you come up, yeah, here it is. Come down. It says fathers are encouraged to collect and complete the application forms, and then it goes on to tell you what is required: certified copy of certificate of confinement, etc. But then it says, Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strong, confirmed that to Barbados today that cabinet had approved the policy, the paternity policy. Approving the policy does not mean that you have the legal mechanisms to make that put that policy in place. So you can come up with all the work and write up the policy and identify the necessary reforms and all of that. But the law has to be, you have to have the legislation in place. So what is being drafted says to me that, and so my search was accurate in that there was no first reading of any related bill or debate of any bill related to this or the passage of any bill. And so at this point in time, employees, and perhaps this is something that Mr. Strickland can speak to next time he's on, the passage, unless that legislation is in place, you can't do nothing.
Yes.
And you see, for something, and this is what I don't understand. It is important. And this is a discussion we used to have, because even with the collection of taxes legislation, we were of the opinion that we should still try hard where you were going to put provisions in place to make sure that the legislation either was there for immediate implementation or that it was addressed as soon as possible. And that is taxes where you're covered by the law, by the piece of legislation that I mentioned, Chapter 85 of the Laws of Barbados. But in this case, you are out on a wing.
Yeah.
You know, on a limb, sorry.
On a limb, yeah, I got you. But I think I'm so glad that you have raised this. Just, you know, when it reminds me of when the Sunday before, when you called me and said, Marcia, can we borrow your platform? You tricked me. And
I beg again tonight. I laugh when I tell you this because I remember it.
You remember, and it was right about now, you know, whenever we're doing
and it was about national insurance too.
And it was, and it's crop over. So what I promise I'm going to do, Miss McClean, you send me the information. Actually, I'm going to let you connect with Mr. Strickland and see if this is something that you can come together with him on, and we either because he normally deals with these topics, see what can be done whenever he comes back on. All right. And we need to do something faster on it, and I really appreciate you coming on and actually just letting us know what is happening. Aaron Hunt is saying he heard about this at work. DeVere Smith said, great observation, Miss McClean. Jonathan B said electioneering, because if it's not law yet, but then they're claiming, oh, it was a policy, the date is gone. Have you made it law so that it can it can work, right? Well, thanks again to you, Miss McClean, and to our guests. We remember Amaya, little Amaya, who needs a liver transplant. And she needs, I have the list here of the what she needs before she can get that transplant. She needs a B positive donor, somebody aged 18 to 43 who is willing to give her a little piece of their liver so that she can live. Her father is O positive and he is going to be the primary donor, but they want a B positive donor to be a backup, to travel with them, to go to Colombia for the surgery to be done. It's a very important surgery. It's a life and death situation. She needs to gain weight, so they are giving her Pediasure and with fresh compressed coconut oil, and they're giving her eggs and so on, trying to get her. She has to put on weight before she can do the surgery. And of course, the other things, the passports and so on, we would have raised money for her to do all of the preparation, the suitcases, and we're not worried about that. But the number 1 and 2 are the things that are out of our control. It is a B positive donor. We need somebody to come forward, and she needs to gain weight in order to do the surgery, right? We want to thank Mr. Ernesto Cook. for raising some important, very important points there that I believe will send a lot of us in research. I say to us, research. Before we discard it, research it and be satisfied that, okay, yeah, I don't believe in it. I don't believe what he's saying. But don't just hear it and push it away. We did that before. There was a time before we did that. And a lot of the things that we were saying were conspiracy. We've now come to realize that that some of it, it wasn't conspiracy. It was the truth. It was real. So I say, research it before you throw it away. All right. And you know, keep your eye on Guyana's politics. Keep your eye on the elections in Guyana. Barbados, please don't take your eye. Don't say because it's Guyana. You know, you watch Guyana, watch St. Vincent and the Grenadines, watch Dominica, watch what is happening. We might very much realize that everybody, these people are moving with a playbook because a lot of these that are in power are all friends. Be careful, Barbados. Okay. God bless you all. So I'm going to see you, on Friday with Dr. Ferdinand Nichols is going to be on Friday because I've got to be at rehearsal with my children. All right. So Friday, he'll be on, and we are going to give you the follow-up on Chrissy D and the NCF and Carol Roberts. We're going to let you know, and by that time, we probably will know if Ronnie is on, if the announcer is on, you know, on the lineup, right? If he got through, and we are going to hopefully we're going to try to get something on this paternity leave as well, some more information. As well, we're going to talk about Walk Holy. Lynn Boynton is going to be on talking to you about agriculture and some ideas, some things to think about. All right. So that's what's going to happen on Friday. God bless you all and have a good night.